Welcome. My name is Douglas Getz, and you've found your way to the Diving and Thriving podcast. Here, we have enlightening conversations about how we can better navigate this sometimes crazy world we live in. From refreshing spiritual perspectives to tips about personal growth, the focus here is about how we can become better human beings. So I'd like to thank you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome, Kenneth Cruz.
Thank you, Doug, for having me.
Oh man, I'm happy to get you on the Diving and Thriving podcast.
Yeah, well, it's always good talking to you. So yeah, should be good.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. Yeah, we were trying to coordinate this before you went to Costa Rica, but it didn't work, and then you went. So First off, tell me how your trip was. How was that, man? That's a dream.
It's literally like paradise on earth. That's how I would describe it down there.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a lot of like soul searching because that's where my people are from. So I feel like I really needed to go through that, and I came back like a different person. Yeah, which is good.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
You were family down there, so I saw you were at one point camping in tents.
Dude, it was amazing.
That's
like
awesome.
Yeah, we went to the base of Arenal, which is one of the active volcanoes in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
So we were camping at the base, but we were so high up there in altitude that like at night we were in altitude with the clouds. So at night, like there was literal cloud particles around us. Like I saw with my own eyes, just the rain particles in the air. Like we recorded it, but it didn't come out right. It's something you can only experience in person. And that to me was like amazing.
That's so good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on your Snapchat. I was like, dude, that's so great. So yeah, we gotta shoot for sometime next year if you're interested to go to the festival that's in Costa Rica.
I'm not gonna lie, like for me, Costa Rica, from after this trip, it might be a little bit for me before I go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go other places. I can't do everything at once.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta pick your
my big goal right now is to like move out. So I need to save up money. So I'm trying to just once I move out, there's more freedom I can have, and then do like many travels from there.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, dude, it's funny. Every time I talk to you, it kind of it refocuses me a little bit. It reminds me that I need to think about my goals, or I need to remember like my plans for things. Like I remember I was talking to you about a trip that I was planning. You're like, okay, well, I would start thinking about a financial plan for doing that now. If it's 2 months out, like you got to start thinking. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So yeah, man, you're good with it. But yeah, no, it's really funny. You and I were friends. We actually met through the NSLS. I think about it, and then we both became officers and president and vice president, and then you soon became president, and that was a fun experience. That was a really interesting experience. How did you like going through all of that?
I look back at it now, and I can I'm still in some classes. So now we talk about right now I have sports management. We're talking about how to manage a team, how to kind of set a meeting. So everything he's talking about, I've already experienced firsthand. Yeah. So now I have like real life experience. I can equate what you read in the books to. Yeah. And it was honestly like it was an amazing experience because it's one of those things that like you need to gain experience in the workforce somewhere, and no one wants to hire people without experience. So I kind of volunteered, and as we created that team, as we got in contact with people, created events, it's like it's not about what happened there. Like, yes, that was important, but we did it. So now next time you and I do something similar to that, we already have experiences to call back on. So to me, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good time. It really was. And a lot of it was like pulling people together, setting up meetings. and then running those meetings of
Mhm.
topics of importance. Like I remember you and I would get together before the meetings and we
Mhm.
would go over all the things we need to talk about and the order,
Mhm.
like things we need to figure out. It was really like adult life kind of things.
Mhm.
Like you're working in a job setting
Mhm.
to do these things. So yeah, no, I was such a fan of that. Like one of my things with school is that I was always a big fan of learning outside of the classroom. Like I love learning inside the classroom, and like
Mhm.
I picked a major that fit for me, which is communications. But being in the NSLS, which is the National Society for Leadership and Success, which is an honor society that came to our campus, um, it really brought a lot more aspects to learn outside of the classroom, and I love that. Like, and
Mhm.
one of the other things that I did before being really a part of that was I planned a mini music festival called the One Peaceful World Mini Music Festival, and that was like off campus, had nothing to do with school. Hired a DJ, booked a venue, raised like $4,000 in donations, held a raffle, made like a big donation to like support the homeless in Somerset County afterward. And all of that was all learning outside the classroom. And
Mhm.
we were going and pitching to businesses, saying, "Hey, this is what we're looking to do for the community. If you're interested in supporting us, you can make a donation. The proceeds from the raffle that we're going to have are going to go support the homeless in Somerset County. We're going to make a donation to SHIP in Somerville." And it was all like going into businesses, talking to them, leaving them flyers, asking if they could put them up. I was like, wow, this is real world experience,
Mhm.
like legit stuff. The like people, if they're promoting a business, they do this. And then
Mhm.
that transitioned into I got a girlfriend for about a year. And then after that, then I transitioned into the NSLS. And I was like, wow, this is so great. And then becoming an officer was perfect after that. And then doing more events after that was right in line. Like I think
Mhm.
what when I was president, I think I ended up pushing too many events. And I think that was like after I did like a couple, it was like, oh shit, we got a full semester full of this. I don't know. And so it really hit me. I'm like, oh shit. So yeah, it's a something that I need to be aware of and not like because I've had a habit in the past of just like the easy route is just to be like, all right, I'm done. And I'm aware of that now more than I was then. And so just like taking that like little piece of awareness into the future for things I dive into. But it was such a great experience. And plus we had our advisors, Russell and Alicia and
Mhm.
Marianne. Um, they were fantastic. Like the amount of knowledge that those guys, God, men and women, brought to the table was wow, man. We really could do anything
Mhm.
with that with those people supporting us.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. How did you like it? Because after I stepped down, you became president. And how was your time as president?
I to me, when like I was president, it was the most it was like a different time in my life. Like all I was doing was I would work. I think then I was a lifeguard. On some weekends I would landscape when I was able to.
Mhm.
And then the rest of my week was all schoolwork and NSLS. So I like dropped my social life at the moment pretty much. I was like stressed out 24/7.
Mm,
But I was very like focused on my school and on the NSLS. And so I was just hyper focused in that area. So when I was as president, like it was I did stuff I wouldn't do otherwise. Like I know I was in charge of an induction, so for a couple months ahead, we contacted people. We had someone from the NFL come in. He's now a motivational speaker. We gave out award ceremony, so we had to contact those teachers. We had to make sure all the stuff was set and ready. We had to make sure the venue was ready for the induction. All the layouts were set up. All the students knew when to come, how the procedure was going to go down. And so as an individual who was in charge of the club at the moment, it was very eye-opening to see how everything came together and how much information was passed on to me through, again, Russell and Alicia, who they knew what they were doing. So it was like they were spreading their information to me and I was seeing it happen in real life. And I'm sure as I get older, then it'll be my turn to pass that information, whatever I have, to the newer generation of people coming in. And it was only one big event that I did. The rest were not as big as an induction, but still, you do an induction, and I talk to most people my age I know, and you know, I can say I've talked in front of what is it? I don't know, 200 at most,
Hmm.
but still, like gone up and done the speeches, and I personally love the challenge of it. Like that's what kept me going. I love the challenge,
Yeah.
and then COVID hit. So then I kind of stepped away once COVID hit and
Mhm.
entered like a different phase of my life.
Yeah.
But that phase, I was just hyper productive and like all I wanted to do was just work and like
Yeah.
do something, which which is good. I like having phases in life. It's I feel like life is very cyclical.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of people that have that view. Like it's kind of like the seasons too.
Mm-hmm.
Seasons come and go. It's just constant change, slow, but you can tell when transitions are occurring.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. And I was at the induction that you ran, and it was nice, man. It was really nice. And it is, there's so much info that goes into that. And for me, as I was president and I was like looking at all these details getting taken care of, like
Mm-hmm.
event planning is something that I'm looking to get into more in the
Mm-hmm.
future. But there was so much, my mind would just constantly run about the details that had to be taken care of. It was like, oh yeah, something would come up and I'd want to text somebody, but it would be 1 in the morning. Like, oh, geez, I gotta, and I would, we were running a couple different series, and so I would want all the series to run really well, want them to
Mm-hmm.
be promoted well, and then, but I can't do that. I can't do it all, or
Mm-hmm.
uh, or try to get other people to have it to the same standard that I wanted it to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that the team that we had didn't do great, but that like I was just my mind would just not stop about the
Mm-hmm.
events, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it's really nice that we can put ourselves into situations like that to really see how we handle these kind
Mm-hmm.
of tasks that we need to do, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty enlightening as we get to as for self awareness that we get to see how we handle these things, how we develop, and how we work under pressure. A lot of it is a mental game. Like a lot of it is. And so, yeah, it's just yeah, you learn and you grow and you figure out how you work the best and what areas you need to work on and are not so great, and earlier areas you're down to work on, other areas you have no interest in working on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really good. Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah, what no, yeah, as you were saying, like putting yourself under that pressure. I think it's good having like moments where you do kind of expand on like the extreme a little bit and then put yourself in that pressure. So next time something happens, you've already been here. So if you're here, you know you can
Yeah.
handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
So
a nice reminder. You're right. Because once you do something really extreme, you're like, wait a minute, I've done this before. I don't need to worry too much. I've done something way bigger than this. All right, sure,
mhm,
my heart might race thinking about it, but I've already
mhm,
handled this. So
mhm.
yeah, it is a calming feeling.
On the note, I feel like it's also really good to go into the other side of having that time where you're just very present. You're just enjoying your life and enjoying like every moment as is, and just not being so absorbed in whatever you're doing, but just being more absorbed into enjoying your life as most as you can. Again, I feel like it's cyclical because like you can't be here all the time, but if you're here all the time, you're not going to enjoy your life.
Yeah,
But if you're here and you're working hard and like doing something, it kind of makes it easier for you to have those moments where you enjoy yourself to like the max and like
yeah,
do just enjoy your life, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Not that,
cyclical.
yeah.
It's good because it's what you're talking about is basically a balance between the two. And
Hmm.
cyclical is, I think, another good word because there are times when you do need to stay at that point of doing and planning and things
Hmm.
longer than you may want to or whatnot.
Hmm.
But then also the other side is nice too, where
Hmm.
it's you get to sit back, you get to enjoy life. I know a lot of people that, or I'm sure there's a ton of people in the world that like work jobs where it's a lot of planning, a lot of deadlines, and they
Hmm.
go on vacation for a week or 2 weeks. And just
Hmm.
by the end of like the first week or the first week and a half, they're starting to get out of work mode and into like enjoying the moment. And then as once they're getting there, their vacation's almost done. So it's like,
Hmm.
oh man.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a balance. It's important to see both sides of it because they're both enjoyable. Like if you stay in the
Hmm.
present moment for too long, you'll eventually start to think, I need to start working on some more things. Like I'm just going about eating good food, going on walks, and that's nice for certain. Again, it's cyclical. It's
Hmm.
nice for its period of time, whatever that amount of time is. But then going back to working on things, doing things, that feels really good too.
Hmm.
Like I was at a point where I wasn't doing all that much over the summer, and then I had like a couple projects I needed to do. I need to get a trailer fixed, and so just the process of going through what materials do I need, how am I going to put this together, and just that is like a level of thinking that you don't necessarily do when you're living in the present a lot. It's just
Hmm.
you're more appreciating the
Hmm.
things that are around you than you are. All right, let me dive into this to a point where it might be like excruciating to a thinking point, but it feels good. It feels good to do that, and it feels good to
Hmm.
accomplish things for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, no, going back off what you said, I feel like once the everything got shut down, like the whole world just kind of got set in that, like I'm home, I'm not really doing anything, like you start procrastinating and stuff. The amount of people I've talked to who like still don't work as well from home, or like learn as well from home as when I'm in the classroom
Yeah,
is like everyone I've talked to.
yeah,
It's yeah, since this whole thing happened, it's been interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely a lot tougher to learn at home. It's different. You also there's no talking between friends or people in your
Hmm.
class. They'll send you into breakout rooms, which is kind of a chance to goof
Hmm.
off or whatnot. But if you're in class, like if I was in class, I'd be goofing off with the person next to me and like
Hmm.
making friends. You can't
Hmm.
really make friends in a Zoom class.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think that happens. I really don't. I've met a lot of great people in school and just from hanging around and being gravitated to
Hmm.
them in the lunchroom or in the gym
Hmm.
or in classes. Pretty much all of my really good friends have come from school, and I've noticed that. And so like it's it's one aspect that's definitely missing. Uh, the connections being made.
Hmm.
You can make connections and you can see somebody and you're like, all right, this is a good person, but you're not going out for to hang out in the park or do things
Hmm.
off of like a Zoom call.
Hmm.
Or it's a lot. It's very different compared to it. So yeah, there are aspects that definitely changed. Yeah.
I know like one thing that really changed a lot was like the dating scene. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah. I personally like that's something I really miss, like in person meeting someone.
Hmm.
Cause like over
Yeah.
Tinder, Bumble, or whatever, it's like it's nowhere near the same.
Yeah.
And even still, like some people aren't comfortable going out and stuff. A lot of places are closed.
Hmm.
So like that's
Yeah.
one thing. Yeah, it's been different.
Yeah.
Everything's been different, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what. Yeah.
I find a similar thing. It's tough for me to figure out like because I only use Tinder
Hmm.
and I was having trouble like figuring out how it worked. Like I knew how it works, but then it's you start conversations. There'd be times I'd be like interested and then message
Hmm.
3 4 people, and then I'd get 3 4 messages back over the next couple days. I'd be like, this seems like a lot of work. I gotta, because the conversations would be superficial,
Yeah.
and it was like this is tough because then you're not meeting the person in person, and
Mhm.
so it's the conversation was tougher to me.
Mhm.
I can't figure. I also didn't spend enough time to really figure it out, and like adjust to it. But it
Mhm.
was just so much of a preference to meeting people in person that
Yeah.
it's like this is so subpar
Yeah.
compared to the other. Because like when you meet somebody in person, you feel them out. You see what energy do they have. You see like what cool things they're into, or
Mhm.
what cool conversations, topics come up, like of
Mhm.
things that happen around you, like whether you're
Mhm.
walking in the park or something. Like yeah, it's different. The conversation is different.
Mhm.
All aspects of it are different. So I haven't figured it out. But I'm kind of okay with that. If that was my thing, it was gonna like try to transfer platforms or try out Bumble or Hinge to try them out to see if it was any different. But yeah, it was funky for me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you currently have a girlfriend now?
I
That's
do.
or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I have a girlfriend right now.
Okay.
But yeah, as I was playing and messing with Tinder and whatnot, just couldn't figure it out. And I met my girlfriend in person, which was nice.
Yep. Yep.
On a walk around the park with my friend. So you at least like get that in person kind of perspective on someone. But the other way,
Mhm.
it's just like I can't. I wasn't interested enough. It
Mhm.
was the desire would come in and then it would fade away.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, okay, and then I'd have like a couple messages waiting for me, and the desire would fade over the day or two. This seems like too much work.
Mhm.
So it would just go back and forth. But yeah, man, have you been successful on it? Have you?
On Tinder, like,
Yeah,
no, I haven't. I tried, but like at this point, I'm to me, like what I worked on the most was my presence and like just being really good talking to someone in person. And you can display that confidence. You can display like most
yeah,
most communication is all body language and tonality. So
yeah,
that's like when in person you can present yourself in a really good way that most people don't. But over text and Tinder, it's all of your pictures and stuff. I was never a big like social media guy, like having the best pictures, having like presenting myself online. I'm not the best, so my results weren't the best. So
yeah,
I just like I'm past it. What I'm focused on now is just like trying to get my money so I move out. So when I move out and shit opens up again, I can enjoy a good dating life.
yeah.
So right now I need to focus on that money.
That's good,
It's,
man.
yeah,
Really good. Good for you.
yeah.
Yeah, it's always nice talking to you because, like I said, it's a nice refocus on things. To see how you work. It's always nice. Like it's really important to have a good social circle or people
Mhm,
that kind of you admire or that you like surrounding yourself with.
mhm,
Because like you can surround yourself with other people and they're not talking about moving out or saving money or their goals or whatnot, or
mhm,
not at the forefront of their mind.
mhm.
So yeah, man, it's a pleasure talking with you and knowing you because like I get a lot of benefit from our friendship.
Uh, no, yeah, I appreciate it, man. And I know we've been through like fun times together and everything. So
Yeah.
and more to come.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, man. I got my fingers crossed for there being a music festival uh summer that we
Mhm,
have. So I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
mhm,
And if so, I'm gonna get in touch with John.
mhm,
To see we gotta form a little festival group
mhm,
to go because that'll be good. His buddy Jesse is out in Colorado. They went to Envision last year before the pandemic.
mhm,
Came back then. And then after they came back to Jersey, Jesse was, I think, from John telling me, he said, I'm just looking to stay moving. And so he just packed up his car and he drove, I think, to Oregon at one point, and then he
mhm,
came back down to Colorado. He's staying there. So
mhm.
that's cool. I mean, it's fun.
My question for people like that is like, where does he make his money? Because that's the biggest concern. Like, if you
Yeah.
got a good source of income, like that's the ideal life. But where does he get that source of income?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a good question. Um, yeah, I don't know, but it's a good question to ask.
I when I was in Costa Rica, I was at a beach. So like we got a beach hotel. So there was a park where I went to work out and I saw some dude who was boxing there. And so I saw him like 3 days boxing. So by the third day we were talking and stuff. And he said he was born in Connecticut, moved out to California for like 10 years, suddenly decided that wasn't the life he wanted to live. So then he traveled over and lived in Thailand, Cambodia, um, and one other South Asian country. He traveled all around Europe and now he's living in Costa Rica. And that was the one question on my mind that I forgot to ask. I'm like, where did he get, like, how did he set himself up? Those are the type of people I want to ask. Because that's like, to me, the ideal life. Like, just travel wherever you want.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just figured out the money aspect, and like, yeah, you want to be efficient with your money, so you don't want to have to work like crazy hours to get
Hmm.
not all that big of a paycheck at the end.
Hmm.
And then after that, then you want to invest the money that you do have.
Hmm.
And so it's a big subject in itself, but
Hmm.
definitely due for some study, because the way a lot of people make money is like it's not always the most efficient. And there's like
Hmm.
a lot of ways out there that you can make money. And so a lot of it is just opening your eyes to other possibilities, but then also taking action and sticking with it, and then
Hmm.
testing to see if you're getting the results you're trying to get. And you have to stick with it for a little bit of time. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I just noticed that just a couple recently that yeah, I gotta be aware of that for myself, to not drop out of it too quick, or not just, oh, this is something else that's cool, and dive into that. It's the what is it? I guess the determination. I'm very determined in certain aspects, but in
Hmm.
that where it spans over like months and like half a year to a year, it's like, all right, now I got to commit to this. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's another level.
That's always like the hardest part too. Because once you're committed to something, there's always all these other things trying to enter your life and distract you. And like bro, I'm telling you, like on your phone, it's all distractions, right? Your
Dude,
focus just
yeah,
everywhere, everywhere. There's so many distractions. Just it's
yeah,
so hard right now.
yeah, yeah. It really is. My girlfriend had this one book she was reading called Deep Work, and she has. Do you know?
Calvin Newport.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, it said for us to really, I'm paraphrasing, but for us to really be productive, we have to wean ourselves off of the constant desire for distraction.
Hmm.
It's like those little distractions. We pick up our phone and we say, oh, we scroll a little bit. We say, all right, that's enough. Just
Hmm.
constant focus on something can really, really improve how we do in like a much shorter period of time. Like a lot of
Hmm.
times, the things we need to do, like I know for me, they get drug out for a good amount of time. And it's like, this could be done in 2 days versus
Hmm.
2 weeks.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's going back to like schools being closed. That's the biggest thing for me. Cause here, right, I'm in my bed right now, and this is usually like the comfiest spot for me to do Zoom class. So I'm in class and like it's so easy for me to just get my phone. I'm hungry. I go downstairs. I just procrastinate so much. But when I was at school, I go to the library. My mind is like, okay, this is my spot to work. When
Mhm.
I'm in here, no one bothers me. No one like is distracting me. I'm just here to get the things I want to do done. And once I do, then I can go back out and like enjoy or do whatever I need to do. But here at home, it's such a meshed environment.
Mhm.
And I was just talking to my friend about it, and she said the same thing. Like she's at home, and her home life, social life, work life, and school life just all got meshed into one. It's like a ball, man, and like it's hard to like pick it apart.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to describe it. Like as a picture, it did all just get smushed together. And so I saw a great need to really get out and be in nature at one point.
Hmm.
And during the quarantine, when it was a lot more restrictive,
Hmm.
that, you know how they say, make sure to stop and smell the roses. I swear, like all I was doing was smelling roses. And it was nice, and I was smelling all the flowers that I would come across on my walk. I'd be like, I feel like I'm smelling like too many damn roses. I gotta go like do something. So yeah, yeah. I think, and then on the other point of like getting distracted and whatnot, I think you really need to find something you're excited about doing or you
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Not one that's necessarily like the easiest, but that you feel accomplished from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and so that's why I'm happy I'm doing this podcast, is because I love talking to people, and it's such a great way to connect with people. And honestly, I've said this before, that I have a lot of great conversations with a lot of great people. I would think many times, like, man, I need to record this. Like, there would be a lot of people that would benefit from hearing this stuff. And so, yeah, it was that. And then also another funny thing that I had to work through is that I had to work on it not being perfect from the start. That was a big one, because I've always been a perfectionist and wanting everything to be figured out before I start. And if you do it that way, you a lot of times you might not start, because I had an idea for another podcast. I was like, okay, well, where am I going to get my guests? What's my logo going to look like? How am I going to record it? What questions am I going to ask my guest? How am I going to upload it? And it was like pulling me in all different directions. And then I was friends with another guy who met at RV, Chris Spanish. I think you
Mm-hmm.
met once or twice. I think we hung out briefly, but he was doing a podcast. And I was like, really? And so he invited me on his podcast, and we chatted for a little bit. And he was telling me about his process. And he would be walking in the park while it's windy, holding his phone up to his ear, recording a podcast. And I listened to it, and the wind's going on in the background. I'm like, oh wow, this is. He was like, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, it'll gradually get better, but it doesn't have to be perfect from the start. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this is such a great reminder. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, things
I
don't have to
was
be perfect.
No, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, I was having that same thought today. Like, yeah, yeah, because there's a guy I follow on YouTube who's like, he's a big influence for fitness for me. Like, and I remember watching his stuff when he first started, and now I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm probably like about the age he was when he started putting out his first videos, and now looking back, like he wasn't as big, like physically strong. He wasn't able to do as much stuff as he does now. He wasn't as like established as he is now, but he had to start from somewhere, right? And in my head, I've always like wanted to kind of follow in a similar way, because online is the way to go. Like, everything is going online now. So
Yeah,
I'll probably have to set up like a fitness YouTube page and like a website or something, and try and sell
yeah,
programs that way, because it's where the future's going, man, to be
yeah.
honest. And so I've wanted to do that, but in my head, I'm like, I have no idea how to start it. I have no idea. Like, I want it to be perfect, like you said. And today I was like,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Just start. That's all that matters. Just start and keep it going. And
yeah,
like you said, gradually it'll get better.
yeah. That's the beauty of it too, because yeah, it's impossible to make it perfect from the start. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even if you have a ton of money and a great team, you
Mm-hmm.
still put out a great first product, but there's still tweaks that
Mm-hmm.
occur as you go along to improve it. And yeah, man, and I think the other big thing is talking about it too, talking about what you want to do with the people around you,
Mm-hmm.
getting ideas, getting feedback, and whatnot. Because like, even like, and for you, I used to build websites
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So when you get to like building websites, like, give me a call and whatnot, and I can like walk you through that, or give you like a tip, or show you how I would do it, and kind of give the whole landscape of it. Because like,
Mm-hmm.
it's really tough trying to learn every aspect of it yourself. And then like,
Mm-hmm.
for this video podcast, I had to learn video editing to be able
Mm-hmm.
to put an intro to it, and like edit things. That took me about 2 weeks to figure out, because I was procrastinating with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you start to figure things out. Eventually, like you procrastinate long enough, and you're like, all right, I got to do this, and then you spend the time, and then you realize, wow, it wasn't all that much work.
Hmm.
Um, and I think for me, it also is getting into more videos and getting into more content creation, um, just in like multiple avenues because people are interested. There's a lot of people on YouTube. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people on social media.
Yeah.
People will watch your stuff. They'll watch my stuff. They'll watch things just because they're bored. And so, like, just having things to put out. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's like this is how I make a podcast, and this is how I do this, or this is something that came up during my day. And it all depends on like the type of content you're interested in creating, because you could
Hmm.
do very mundane content, like videotaping yourself making a meal, or like depends
Hmm.
on what levels you want to be at. To the videos I want to put out like be really professional, or like what level of quality are you going for, and are you okay with like lower quality ones but plenty of content, or do you make long videos and then like splice them up into segments and putting out those segments as videos?
Hmm.
It's such a it's a very large area that you can figure out how to do, and it's kind of a lot if you look at it
Hmm.
from yeah, it's but that's an avenue that I want to go down too, is more videos, more content. We're like being able to offer more things, really. That's what it is. um
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, so that's a good area to go down. How is the fitness aspect going for you? I know you're a big fitness guy and personal trainer.
Hmm.
So yeah, how is that?
I took about 2 months off, so I just got back in the gym like this week
Mm,
because the month before I went to Costa Rica, I got a job at FedEx, so I was working like a lot, and it's physical labor. Like I thought landscaping was hard. Nah, dude, loading trucks is the hardest thing physically I've ever done in my life. Like, cause we were moving like the average box is 60 pounds, and we have to move around like when you're really hustling like 350 an hour on average. So you're moving a lot of boxes. And like when I was there, you know how I am. Like I like to just focus down and like work hard as fuck. Like, can I curse? I'm sorry. That just came out. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
sure.
no, curse
All
all
right.
you want, yeah.
All right. It just all right. Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I'm locked in, like I tap into that. I just want to fucking work. So I
Yeah.
was moving the boxes and I was moving hard at work, and then I come home and like I was like, yo, I can't even walk. So like I took the month off there for the gym, and then I went to Costa Rica, so I had my gym on pause, so I didn't spend money for like a week's use.
Mhm.
So I just got it back this week, so I'm finally starting to go back in the gym.
Yeah.
And this year, like I've just got two big focuses: to rack up money and to kind of build up my body. Um, right. It's the last year. This is the last year before I graduate. So,
Yeah.
you know, or I graduate this year. Yeah. So once I'm done with that, like I gotta focus on making money because I want to create a good life for myself in the long term, which I've been thinking about. Right. And I've been goofing off a lot, but like as of whoops. Oh, hold on. Oh, yo, I just pressed the camera button on my computer. 1 second.
All good.
I
Yeah.
forgot that was there, so I pressed it on the side by accident.
The power button.
Yeah, it's like turns the camera on and off.
Okay. Yeah, man. You know, it's and again, I'm just gonna keep reiterating it with you. Like, I love talking to you because it really gets to refocus me on the things that I'm working on and whatnot. And yeah, man, it's great. So yeah, you're awesome with your goals. And yeah, where do you want to be at with your well, have you set legit goals for money and body? Cause like update with me, I think when we were in school together, when school was in session, um, I said I wanted to be 180. I was like 170-ish, and that was
Mm-hmm.
the most I weighed. I'm like 186 right now. And so like I'm really happy about that. Now I'm going for 190.
Mm-hmm.
And things are good. Like I've really enjoyed that. But yeah, have you set specific goals?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was gonna say, like, just from the video, like, you went up like that and your arm was looking a little beefy. So yeah.
I'm wearing my Got Muscles shirt.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
No, I fuck with it. I think this shit's funny.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
For me, it's so hard for me to gain weight, but I can, my specific body type, I'm able to get shredded like relatively quick compared to other people. And I have a good body for calisthenics where I can do like against my own body weight. I have a lot of good body weight control, but I need to like beef up this year. So my goal, I'm 155 to be at around 165 in about a year. And I just need to focus down on the gym, right? And eating more food. So, and money wise, I want to have around like 10 grand for me to move out. So then I can have basically a whole half a year, 8 months of money for
Hmm.
me to really set myself up in whichever city I move to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would really waste my time if I moved to a city and have to move back within 3 or 4 months and then start back at nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because then you just played yourself, like you really did. So 10 grand. I'm pretty much like trying to just not do anything this summer, except if there's a festival or something. I need that little break there. Go ball out for a little bit, but work as much as I can to get money. And once I'm in my own like little bathroom, you know, because that's basically what I'm gonna get, like a small whatever it is. I was looking at apartments. My dream city is Miami.
Yeah.
So I found a spot which is on South Beach for only about a grand a month. And it's like, I'm telling you, you walk out of the door and you can cross the street and you're on South Beach. It's
Yeah.
like a small studio, but like,
Yeah.
bro, it's the first house I would move to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have my freedom. I'm in my dream city. I can find myself a good job.
Yeah.
They're training where it's like trainer central. Like everybody wants to look good in Miami.
Hmm.
Everyone says it's my vibes, and I think it is. I even got like the Miami type shirt,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the goal.
It's good.
So I give myself 1 year to rack up that money, and if I don't, I'll just wait out the next 2 3 extra months it takes, and
Mhm.
then have that money to move out.
Yeah.
But because I'm not gonna lie, like where I live, I don't even. You're like South Jersey. I don't know what that's like there.
Yeah.
Um, But here, bro, I got cornfields for like the next 20 minutes, and everyone my age is gone. So
Yeah.
like there's not a lot of people my age like near my like vicinity. I gotta drive to like where I go out, like Raritan, it's like 45 minutes, and I gotta go out that way to meet like I like the people there and there's a lot more life there,
Yeah.
right? But like I would like to be able to have my own little spot close to where I can have my friends.
Mhm.
And I can't even like, I don't know. It's just, I want to move out, like get my life started.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready for that.
That's
There's
good.
there's limitations still to like being here at home. So I'm willing to just suck it up for the moment and get my money
That's good, man.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny for me. I just recently moved back into my mom's place, and the girl I'm dating is down here, so it's like convenient for me to stay here.
Hmm.
Um, and I just started paying my mom rent, so I feel like a little bit more of a grown up, which is nice.
Hmm.
But it's good because I've been tackling projects around here that
Hmm.
they've been just things haven't made any progress, and my brother won't necessarily make progress on them. And so my mom says she's so happy that I'm back here because like I'm helping out and doing things, and it feels good to like make progress on stuff.
Mhm,
And yeah, yeah, and I think about like moving out for the sake of moving out, and then the girl I'm dating is 29, and
mhm.
so she's got her own place, so we can hang at her place, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because like that's a big plus. Like you're not around parents, so you can just be up at whatever hour of the night and smoke weed and drink and do whatever you want.
Mhm.
Just not be too loud for the neighbors, and that's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and I remember she was telling me that, yeah, if you try to move out just for the sake of moving out, like because you want freedom,
Mhm,
like you might be wasting your money. And I was like,
mhm,
yeah. She was like, if you want to move out for just the experience, like it's all like finances. It's like
mhm,
you don't want to get your expenses too high and then be a
mhm,
slave to your expenses.
mhm.
I've seen a couple people that I'm friends with purchased like really expensive vehicles lately. I would like talk them out of it or try to talk them out of it because it'd be like our age and try to get a new BMW or like brand new like truck. I'd be like, why? Like have you thought about used? Have you thought about like a 3 or 4 year old truck or maybe like six? I'm happy to drive a vehicle with high miles. I have no problem with that. The vehicle that I purchased like recently, it was an '07 Altima that was like close to 200,000 miles, and I bought it for $1,500, and I was happy as hell with it because like high miles never really scared me. And so people that would spend a lot of money, like 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand on a new vehicle and then have monthly payments of $500-600. Why would you
Yeah.
do that? Like you could just drive a beater car or something that's nice, that's not that expensive. You could pay 3 grand in cash for something nice.
Mhm,
So yeah, it's everybody. You really gotta be aware of the financial decisions you make,
mhm.
because they say it's really easy to get into a bad deal, but it's really hard to get out of it. So you gotta that financial picture is really important. And
Mhm.
it's funny. One of the books that I've read, Rich Dad Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki, says that your income statement balance sheet, which is like your income expenses and then also your assets and your liabilities. It
Mhm.
says your income statement balance sheet is your report card once you leave school. So that's basically how well you're doing. And that a lot of people that fall into the poor category make their money from a job or whatever, and then they spend it like really quick, whether it's like that's rent and it's like food and it's beer and everything. And it just like goes right out real quick. And then people who are middle
Mhm.
class end up buying liabilities, which are like nice cars and like nice houses that they don't necessarily need, but they want.
Mhm.
So as a result, their expenses go up and they're supporting that off of a job, and that the income just goes out even quicker. If you're making more money, you're spending more money. So you're not necessarily gaining wealth. You're living a bigger lifestyle, but it is
Mhm.
all dependent on you working and showing up. And so the people that are rich or on their way to being rich focus their time in spending buying assets that could make them money without them like having to work. Or they work to set it up, but then it's like an income producing asset or something like that. And that they use that to pay their expenses. And so it's something that isn't financial education is not taught in school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
It's really not. And even the fact of like you think how much should you really spend on housing? And it's like a common question. My dad was the one that got into finances and everything, which kind of showed me about it. But he said your like housing expenses, which is everything, your rent, utilities, and everything like cable and all that should be no more than 30 to 40% of your income. And so putting it in that respect kind of like gives people an idea of what to shoot for before they agree to something and then they're overextended and now they can't even enjoy the place they're living at because they're working 6 7 days a week to pay for the place that they're living at. And so it's just basically a bed.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of things that kind of fall short. So these are the things you got to go out of your way to learn,
Hmm.
um, figure out.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. You kept mentioning like reading, like your girlfriend read Deep Work and Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I think that's like the beauty of reading books and like
Mhm.
digesting that information. Because like a book is somebody's entire life, and they condense it down to this little thing, and then you can read the best lessons they've learned for
Yeah,
you to learn. Oh, the impact won't be as strong as that person's, but at least you'll have the general concept and idea formed in your head, so you're more aware of things happening.
yeah,
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. But the biggest thing is like a lot of times I've read a book on something and like have a general idea, but then I still experience something, and then my experience really cements that idea into like
yeah.
my me.
Into knowledge,
Yeah, yeah,
into your
that's
knowledge, not just
yeah,
information. Yeah,
yeah. So I feel experience like by far is the biggest thing. I feel like it's really good to have that like when you read, you have that base information, and then you go out and live life and experience, and then that experience has a base, and because it's based, you can just really cement that lesson. Otherwise, like you experience a lot of things, but you're not really able to kind of put it in a category or gain the most out of it.
yeah,
Just it's the way I view things.
yeah, yeah, man. There is a huge benefit to reading books. Like a lot of people aren't a big fan of it, and I know you're a fan of Audible. And
Yeah.
honestly, I need to get into Audible more. How much does that charge you? How much do you pay for that per month?
Right now, I pay 15 a month, and you get one credit. But the
Mhm.
thing I like about it is some of the books you can get are say like a $30 book. You only got one credit, and that credit's 15. So then you just got a $30 book for $15.
Yeah,
And they give you discounts. So say a book is $10, but because you have Audible and you're a member, it'll be like $7, right? And so you're saving a little bit of money there.
hmm,
And to me, like I drive a lot because I live in the middle of nowhere. Relative, if I gotta go to Walmart, it's 20 minutes. So I listen to my book there and back, and that's 40 minutes.
nice.
So it's really beneficial.
That's good. Cool. And once you purchase the books with your credits, do you get to keep those?
Yep.
No.
Even if I've like canceled my um Audible account for like a couple months at a time, but all my books are still there in my library. So you'll always have them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got more books than I can read, so like I had to pause it for a while.
Yeah. 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 That makes sense. Can you still access it once you paused it?
Hmm.
That's awesome. And
Hmm.
you get a credit every month.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I want to go down that route more. I find myself as I read books, it takes me a while to get through it.
Hmm.
And so it's just about like sitting down and like looking at the pages and whatnot. But I
Hmm.
do know a lot of people that do audiobooks and it
Hmm.
works really well for them. Like whether
Hmm.
they're doing a lot of driving or they listen to them while they're working out. You can go
Hmm.
through a lot more listening than reading.
Hmm.
Slow reader or just might like get sidetracked, but you can listen to a book while you're making lunch. So yeah, there's
I also feel like there's like that whole once you enter that self development world, like everything is like its own little world, and I feel like sometimes like the whole Audible you got to read a book is a little too pushed because I caught myself, and I feel like a lot of people do this as well, where you read a book and then you're done with it and you're like next, so you don't really digest the book. So like I find more value in just really digesting the book and taking your time with it than reading one a week. You just got that book down, you checked it off, and boom, on to the
yeah.
next. Because then you read it, you barely process it, and then you're reading something else, and you barely process that.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different approaches, but I personally, like you said, the gym, I can at the gym.
Yeah.
Like I get to this, I'm focused on the book, so like I'm not
Yeah.
really there with my workout. So I'd rather just get my workout, like really focus on that,
Yeah.
and then focus on the book, one thing at a time. Your
Yeah.
your brain can't do everything at once.
No, no. There was a book that I read called The One Thing where it was saying that humans aren't made for multitasking.
No, yeah.
We're not set up for it. And what it does is like there's a task that's a primary task, and then there's a task that's a secondary task. Anything it's like driving and listening to music. Sometimes listening to music is your primary task and driving is your secondary task.
Hmm.
But we're not meant to really do more than one thing at once, because as we focus on one thing and then they switch our attention to the other thing and then we switch it back to the one thing, there's a lot of time that's lost in
Hmm.
like refocusing and whatnot, and that we're not really meant to do that.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's something to be aware
Yeah,
of.
I feel that. No, like I'm ass at directions. Like I'm really bad because I like always condition myself to read the book, so I follow the GPS. So now, like when I'm driving with my dad and I'm not listening to the um Audible book or just driving with my dad, he's always yelling at me because like you got to know where you're going, but I'm always focused on the book, so my brain never focuses on like the
Yeah.
directions exactly. So yeah, he grew up like at a different time where you
Uh,
had to like take out the map and knew
no.
exactly which left to take for how many miles.
Yeah, I thought that the other day. I was like, you know what? Thank God, like I don't have to stop at a 7-Eleven and pick up a map to figure out where I have to go. Like,
Hmm.
that's such a thank God, man. That's a relief.
Hmm.
Like we're pampered.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're really pampered. So yeah, it gets me that like I sometimes get on my own case of like if we're this pampered, I should be doing way more than I'm doing.
Hmm.
Way more. And it's like, oh yeah, and then I gotta like also be nice to myself and be like, okay, relax. You don't gotta like push yourself too much, but then also like, hey, you gotta get back on your game. So it's a balance of both. But I like your term of cyclical, because like constantly balancing things out, if you don't spend too much time or attention on it, then it doesn't grow or it doesn't. Yeah, so being cyclical is a nice way to look at it, um, where it might be like a couple weeks or a month that you're in this time frame, that you're in that mental headspace, but then you go back to it. And so it's a good way to look at it. Cyclical. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good, man.
Yeah, I find that like it's good to pick like a few things you want to get good at and then just have like time where you're really focused on that and then you relax and do something else cuz that way like you get really good at something and over the long term in your life like once you reach the top in something like you can benefit a lot of rewards like no matter what you do
Yeah,
say like you want to be a motivational speaker so you just focus down on that you make it pretty up there
yeah,
in that world so you're a really good speaker you're well known you start getting good money you can travel and live
mhm,
a good life and you're living a good life so you get a lot of different experiences so you can talk about it in your motivational speaking but I feel like that's something we all got to do just like pick a few things we want to get really good at
yeah,
and just focus down on that rather than just being okay at a bunch of different things
yeah,
who I have a friend like that and like everyone thinks differently that's just the way I think but I think that's what I want to do and I think that's what reaps the most rewards.
hmm yeah. There's a saying, and it goes, you could be a try not to be a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Hmm.
So it plays into that.
Hmm.
Yeah, try to get really good at one thing or a couple things. And then also like luck has a way of playing into it when you work really hard. You
Hmm.
also set yourself up for some things. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like there's a lot of little lessons to learn in life, and
Hmm.
so it's really fun to learn them, and then also to share them too. Because like even like the ages that we're at, I'm 25 and you're what? You're 21.
21.
You're 21 now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
The beauty of it is even though we're in our 20s, we've still like had a good amount of experience.
Hmm.
Um, we might not be able to mentor or teach somebody who's like 30 or 40 or 50, or a lot of times they need to be open to listening to somebody who's younger than them. That's like the
Mhm.
first like thing. But yeah, it's there are a lot of lessons that you learn just as you go about stuff, and it's really great, man. Like I think self awareness has been the biggest thing that I've really benefited from. Because just looking at myself to say why did I do that, or why do I do these things, and to see like underneath the surface of like, oh yeah, you're really concerned about your perception. You're
Mhm.
really concerned about this. Like a funny quirk about me is I'm not always the biggest fan of being in pictures because I never know exactly how I look. And I always want to look good in pictures. So like being on the other end of a camera, if I can't see myself, it's weird because I was like, I want every picture to be good, which obviously it won't be. But
Mhm.
then like I have a habit of looking goofy in pictures. I'm like,
Mhm.
if only we could redo that one, and then redo it a couple more times, and then let me see after every picture. I said to a friend the other day, I was like, I swear I'd be a lot better at pictures if someone was just holding up a mirror to me as the person.
Yo, yeah, facts.
Huh?
No, I feel like that's right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, right. Like if I knew how I looked as the person was taking the picture, I'd do a lot better. I could, because I've always thought about like there's like a lure into like being into modeling and whatnot, but I don't. Somebody taking pictures of me, I'm just thinking in my head like, is this look good? Is that look good? I don't know. And so if somebody was holding up a mirror, I'd be like, okay, yeah, let me go for this, or let me like mess around with this impression or whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No, I totally feel your pain.
yeah,
From like my eyes, they're very sensitive, so they always like blink. So like every picture, I'm like squinting, like you can't even
yeah,
see.
yeah,
But one thing I learned was which someone told me about dancing, which I kind of apply to pictures. Everyone's too busy, like focused on themselves to notice. So like a lot of times when someone takes a picture, they don't look at most people, they just zoom in on themselves. So like
yeah,
we pay the most attention. So the way I view it is like only I care how I look as much. Most people don't really. So like
yeah,
out of sight, out of mind. I don't I try but I do feel your pain though of like wanting to look good in pictures like all the time.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's a good quote about dancing. It was funny. I remember dancing a couple times and then realizing that if I closed my eyes, I cared a lot less about what other people thought. And
mhm,
when I opened my eyes and I was looking around and I was like taking in a whole lot more information, or judging certain things, and like
mhm.
being overly aware of stuff. And I'm like, if I close my eyes, I'm in my own world and then I'm just having fun.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, it's much better to be that way. Uh, yeah,
Mhm.
it's good. It's fun little nuggets that we learn as we do this stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as you like I have a friend who we were both shy. We were super shy.
Mhm.
And I put myself in the position to start dancing
Yeah.
because I had a girlfriend at a time. So we were at like a school dance or whatever. I've never danced up to that point, but like I'm with my girlfriend. I was like, okay, my heart is pounding and everything. It's my first time. So I go and like I force myself in that position. I like it. We have a good time and we start doing it more and more and more. Like I push myself more and more. And I have a friend who never did. And so now me at 21, like we go to a party and I'm forming like dance circle, like making sure everyone's having fun. And he's still very similar, where he's still scared to dance. And most people what they need is that liquid courage. So most people just get fucked up and they're like, "Woo! Now that I'm messed up, I can like dance and have fun." But
Yeah.
I think it's important to train yourself to like just enjoy your company all the time and just not need that liquid courage. Because I'm seeing now like some of my friends they can't do a lot of things without having alcohol or if they smoke weed.
Yeah.
Like it's very interesting seeing as we grow how that develops out. Like I remember before we all drank and smoked, And they hit a point where a lot of them were smoking all the time and drinking all the time. And now they're kind of dialing down,
Yeah.
but they still can't do a lot of things without needing that liquid courage, which I think is detrimental to like
Yeah.
most people.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. Like when you get into situations like, and it happens in bars a lot, or it happens in certain situations where it's liquid courage. It's like a false sense of confidence. It's a false sense because it's not there when you're sober.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the major progress is done when you're sober,
Yeah.
and like it's like a brief stint of like, okay, you may have a little bit of confidence, but it doesn't last.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's always told me, like, you're at your best when you're sober.
Yeah.
You're at your best when you're sober. And a lot of the work that we need to do to get better is done when we're sober and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not done when we're fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we might have a good time, but we didn't really push ourselves. So we kind of took the easy way out and then did it at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. But yeah, a lot of it is a mental game. I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed a lot of it is how we perceive ourselves and how we like how self-aware we are as we're doing what we want to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
and my girlfriend and I were broken up for a little bit, and so there was this girl at the gym. I was like, I gotta ask her out. Like, she's a cute girl, like doing like some like real like dumbbell workouts, like
Mm-hmm.
doing some flies and whatnot. And I was like, I gotta ask her out. And it took like a little bit of time in my head to
Mm-hmm.
actually like ask her out. She had a boyfriend, but the fact is that like if I didn't say that, I know I'm gonna get on my case for the rest of the day. Like you should have done that, man. You should
Yeah.
like why? It once I do that, it doesn't matter if she's got a boyfriend or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like what matters is I did that and I overcame the constant thoughts of like nervousness or like any of those thoughts that kind of hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels good to get past that because you feel good when you make a step, when you do something that makes you nervous, you
Mm-hmm.
feel good. And like that's really much more benefit than it is doing it while we're buzzed.
Mm-hmm.
Because like then we don't really want to be reliant on anything. Ideally, like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't serve you. It might serve you briefly, but then you always got to keep it in moderation. Too much of a good thing is never a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing to be aware of. I was just get this one. So I was just listening to a this could be a far out concept, but I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and there was a doctor on there named Carl Hart. And this doctor like studied drugs for a long period of time. It was from Columbia University, and he was an active drug user on many different drugs like Molly and a whole variety of things, all the way up to heroin. And he said that these drugs would like he said he did heroin before one of his TED talks, like the day before his TED talk, and he said after he's done that high, he comes out of it and he's like he's got no problems with the world. Like there's really no issues with the world. And so he was talking about reframing the way we look at drugs and making sure they're more of a benefit and making sure to have his thing was having more of a deeper conversation about drugs
Mm-hmm.
versus the just say no
Mm-hmm.
that they've taught in schools, which is he was saying kind of like a cop out because
Yeah.
then you don't really need to know how certain drugs interact with each other, and it's easier on the parents because the parents don't have to explain anything, and it was just all around easier. I was like, wow, this is such a different perspective on like drugs and alcohol. So really interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I feel that like that is a cop out. Like just say no. It's like the abstinence thing. Like they tried pushing it, but like I mean, even the study showed as they were pushing it, it wasn't really effective because when you're a teen, you still want to try things out. You want to try like drugs out. You want to try sex. You know, so it's all like what they push in the school. I think like just our school education system is like really flawed.
Yeah.
That's we don't. really have that deeper conversation on a lot of things. Even going back to finance, they don't really teach you finance.
Dude, they don't teach you so many things, like so many life skills as well, like how to eat properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like drugs. I know that the whole program that they had for so many middle schools was Dare, and Dare was deemed a complete failure across the entire United States.
Yep.
And there was like another program that was offered in like a such smaller subset of the country, and it actually taught the students how to say no and how to like deal with the group saying, "Come on, try it." Like, come on. It's like, no, I'm not interested in that. No, but like just one hit, you're not gonna get that high. Listen, I love you as a friend and you're a great person, but I'm really not interested in that. And I'd respect it if you respected my wish not to try it. And if we can't do that, then I have to leave. And that actually yielded some better results than just say no.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a cop out. It's and the school system really doesn't really prepare people for the world. Like I've got a perspective that if a lot of people are just going for degrees, they're kind of missing out because all of that is in a classroom. And you have to balance the theory, which is the classroom stuff, with the practical, which is the world stuff. And so they're both important, but there was a saying my dad's been told, and he says, the theory without the practical is useless, and the practical without the theory is dangerous. So it's definitely a balance, but if you're too focused on school, then it's all just theory.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you like making use of like clubs and planning events and like working with people and working on projects, you come out of school and you're much more attractive as a candidate for a job because you can say you've done certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of people are just chasing a degree,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really chasing a degree that they're not all that excited about sometimes, or they're not like, well, when you get to chasing a degree, you end up cutting a lot of corners to get there, and you don't care as much about the classes, and it's just about this piece of paper, and that piece of paper is going to bring you all your hopes and dreams. But we're not really in a world like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So things have changed. Like back in our parents' day, it meant a world of a difference. Like you could work in a big office in a corporate setting without a problem. But now what's happened is that mentality got pushed onto every kid, and now every kid goes to college and every kid comes out with a degree, and that now the bachelor degree becomes the new standard where a high school degree once was, and so
Mm-hmm.
now you have to get your master's to set yourself apart if you're still going down that traditional road of trying to get a job and not necessarily be creative on your own and start a YouTube channel or start
Mm-hmm.
your website or sell courses or put on workshops. Like all that takes extra effort that is not necessarily preached unless you're in like an entrepreneurship kind of household or a household
Mm-hmm.
that promotes business. Like when you're an entrepreneurship or a business household, I haven't come from one, but it's like from other people telling me that you're much more easily set up to do all those things. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah.
When I visited my family in Costa Rica, I really noticed the difference. Like my dad was always the more entrepreneurship type. So he's the one that immigrated here and started his own business here.
Mhm.
And after going to Costa Rica, I really respect him more because
Mhm.
he left like when he's 25. So imagine you at 25 move to Germany, don't speak the language, and then you create your own business and you are in contact with your clients. Like that's a person who really has that entrepreneurship mindset of like
Yeah.
setting themselves up, right? Because it's a whole different language and everything's so much harder because of that language gap. So I went back to Costa Rica and visited some of my cousins who I was staying with, and I saw the difference. You know, their dad was the person who had the same job since he like was 19 or 20. So he worked the same job for about like 35 years before they fired him because the company went under. So now he was really in a tough spot because he only knew one thing his whole life, and he kind of pushed that upon his kids. And so now, like,
Mm.
I see the difference of who I am versus who my cousins are. And I have to say that's a lot thanks to like my parents, and my dad's very entrepreneurship focused. So I've always seen things from like an employer's point of view,
Hmm.
because he comes home, but he still deals with business aspects of things at home
Yeah.
rather than someone coming home and then telling the employee side of things.
Yeah.
And through just if I work somewhere, I can get the employee side of things too. So I can kind of gain both perspectives and kind of intertwine it. But yeah, I noticed the difference between even like people I grew up with whose parents were entrepreneurship type versus not.
Yeah.
And just that whole college thing. Like some of my parents, some of my friends' parents push that on their kids. You know, all that matters is the degree. And my friend I was talking with, he said he doesn't really know what his plan is. He's just gonna get that degree and then figure it out from there. He's a super bright kid, not really involved in school, but going for an engineering degree. So there is options in that because it's engineering. I feel like certain
Yeah.
uh, fields do have, they'll always be there, like
Yeah.
an engineer. But yeah, I have a friend and she's going for marketing, which a lot of people go for marketing, so it's slightly harder to distinguish yourself there.
Hmm.
But again, her parents just all that matters is that degree. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned one of your friends was like, I'm just gonna get my degree and then I don't know what's gonna happen after that. And I think it's really important to figure out like your likes and your interests and things that you're
Mm,
actually going to enjoy.
mm,
Because like one thing you really don't want is you don't want to fall into a life that you don't enjoy. And
mm,
I think that is like you can support yourself and you can pay your bills and whatnot. But if you're not enjoying the life you set up for yourself, it's not all that like it wouldn't be that enjoyable. Like if
yeah.
you're living a life that, yeah, I kind of just fell into it versus like actually choosing it. And I think
Mm,
that's a big difference. And a lot of times kids and students aren't really given that time to figure out what you
mm,
want or dabble in certain things.
mm,
Um, and like once you get right out of high school, it's okay, where are you going to college and what degree path are you
yep.
going for? And they want you to basically figure out your whole life at 18. And that's a
Yeah.
huge
That's
issue with things.
ridiculous.
Such because you barely gotten out of the house, you barely experienced much of the world, and you're doing it off an idea. And so, especially if you go down the route of going to a 4-year university, and then if you change your degree a year or two in, you might lose like 20, 30 grand. And
Mm,
it's not worth it at that point.
mm,
And I think also, I think there's a big benefit in taking a gap year from school. Like I took a 3-year gap from RBCC, and that's when like it was funny. I ended up coming back to school because I was like, my social life is stagnant. Like I need to meet some people. I need to meet some girls. Where are all the young kids hanging out at? I was like, oh, they're at school. Oh, I should go back to school. And like that's what led me back to school. And then once I was back to school, I took 2 classes which are for part-time, and it was financial accounting and public speaking. I was like, okay. And then as I did that, I promoted the One Peaceful World event. And then after that, it was okay, do I want to go down the business or the communications route? Because before I was going down the engineering route, and that was a route that I realized that was kind of sold to me from my grandparents, from my grandpa.
mm,
Was always because I have uncles who kind of run an engineering firm, and it was just all throughout like middle school and high school. That was just in the back of my head. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to become an engineer, and I'm going to be a high paid engineer at one of like either my uncle's firms or something. And I was like, okay, this is great. But then there was a point where I realized, did I actually choose this, or was this pushed on me?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a big need to actually choose my own path, or feel like I'm choosing my own path, whether it's fate or it's free will, but a need to actually say, okay, this is what I want to do versus, it makes sense to do this. And hey, you're so great at this. Why don't you do that? And you're like, if you're not passionate about it, it kind of shows. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely shows. So I think there is benefit to taking that gap year and taking some time to actually figure out what you want to do, because not everybody knows what they want to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some degrees really don't transfer. Like I was just hearing from a friend's mom who's big into education, and she says the large amount of students that go to law school don't necessarily have a criminal justice degree, but they can go into law school just because they have a bachelor's, whether it's in chemistry or biology or engineering or other things, because they don't necessarily need a criminal justice degree to get into law school. And some of the best lawyers come from a chemistry background, because then they can come and be a patent attorney and figure out other aspects. They have a different set of knowledge versus if you graduate with only a criminal justice degree, the only route you can go down is either a lawyer or a police officer or something within criminal justice. And so your options are much more limited versus if you
Mm-hmm.
went with a chemistry degree or other things. So it's a really tough situation that's set up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there we go. Yeah, it's a really tough thing that's set up. Um, yeah, it's not all that. The school situation is not set up the best, and the reason schools were actually set up was because they needed more workers for industry when the industrial revolution came about. They
Mm-hmm.
needed more workers. So what it was set up as was it was set up as a way to produce workers, and that's how it came about. Um, yeah, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel that, and I feel like the conversation's being brought up more. I feel like as I feel like this newer generation brings up, like you hear a lot of the younger kids, at least I do. I hear, okay, from the parents, I feel like there's a lot of pressure for them to go to the school, get that degree, and a lot of people fall for it. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people are waking up to realizing like some of their parents may still be in debt. They know older people who are in debt, and so they're not trying to go down that route.
yeah,
So it's going to be interesting to see where society lies in about 20 years
hmm
if people keep going the same route, or if we start more people waking up and seeing things differently
yeah,
and changing the way we do things.
yeah. I think people are starting to wake up a little bit to see that the system is not perfect.
Mm.
And I think the pandemic actually really helped to show that, because how can you be paying 50 grand a year when you're doing online classes from home?
Hmm.
Makes absolutely no sense, but a lot of these colleges aren't reducing their tuition prices.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funky. Um, so that's like a big thing. Also, I watched a documentary called The College Conspiracy, which was put on by the National Inflation Association. It's inflation.us is the URL. And it talked about all the aspects of college, where it's like tuition has been on a steady rise, like risen like 10 to 13% every year, or some large percentage every year since the 1980s. And back in the day, you used to be able to pay for a full school year room and board for 5 grand, and now it's like 50 grand, 30 grand for that.
Hmm.
So when our parents went to school and they were paying for it, it was easier than like where it is now. And so
Hmm.
yeah, it's it was that textbooks are insanely expensive, that like, and they also do a scam where they'll buy back the used textbooks to destroy the used textbook market, and that they charge $200-300 for a book that you need to use for the class, and it's specific to your class, because you can't buy the book from the other college because that's slightly different. So it's just like a whole bunch of games that are played. Plus, access codes are such a bitch.
Hmm.
Like that you need that to do it, and yeah, there's so much. Plus, the athletic programs bring in millions and millions of dollars to some of these schools, and the student athletes get paid none of it. And like the facilities that are spent is like so great, and the allure to going to some of these colleges is the partying.
Hmm.
Which there was like a book that was written by two women. It was called "Paying for the Party," and so it was like, so this is where our money is going. It's going so our kids can experiment with alcohol and drugs, and go to parties on the weekends and like have their whole social scene set around that. So yeah, it's funky. Um, so yeah, it's changed over the years.
I feel like, yeah, like I've been to enough college parties, and some of the people there only go to college to party. Like that's the biggest reason. And I feel like they're overrated too. Like you go to a few, it's cool, whatever, but it's not really worth, indebting like half your life
Yeah,
if your biggest reason is to go party. But when you go, you're 18, 19, you don't really think about these things. You just want
yeah,
to go party.
yeah, yeah.
Then
It's
when you
great.
get out, you're like, fuck, now I gotta pay all this back.
Dude, I can't imagine having to pay back 100, 200 grand. Like, I'm naturally averse to debt. Like, any
Mhm.
large amounts on a credit card, I'm like, I should pay that off. But yeah, I can't imagine being 100, 200 grand in debt. Because you,
Mhm.
you can't like pay that off just by working. Like, if you do, yeah, you're literally, you're like a wage slave. You're stuck paying that.
Yeah, and then the biggest like thing I look at is like, if you spend all that money, is it worth the return on investment?
Yep.
Like if you say you become a lawyer, well, lawyers make a lot of money. So overall, I feel like you need the education to be a lawyer, and you make the money back enough to be able to pay that and support a good lifestyle. But other jobs and occupations, not so much. So you're spending all this money to not make as much money. You have all the money you make to pay it back, and you don't have excess money to invest.
Yeah.
So you're not only losing what you like pay to go, you're losing the ability to invest. And I think that's a big thing. That's
Yeah.
a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like countless memes online which are, yeah, you should go to college and pursue something you like. But then when you get out, just remember that they're not going to be hiring. And that's like, and then like another aspect to it, it's like, and they'll want 5, 10 years of experience. That's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
little tough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the whole system is not really set up. Like the amount of things that they should be teaching, like financial literacy, financial education, like how to buy a mortgage, like what
Mm-hmm.
taxes are and how you pay them, like real life stuff. Like there's not really a real life course for how you're supposed to do things. It's
Mm-hmm.
really not. And so like as a result, a lot of people are at a disadvantage, and like you don't really learn the things that you should once you get out of school. And as a result, you need to learn them either, hopefully you have people around you and mentors that can help
Mm-hmm.
and guide you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then also the trial and error. And trial and error is nice, but it's also a long road. And it can also be very expensive too. And that's the sucky
Mm-hmm.
part. So yeah, it's a
I,
road.
to be honest, like I feel like as kids are being raised, we're seeing every generation like always changes something from the previous. So I feel like by the time we're in the age to have our own kids going to school,
Mm-hmm.
the school system, some of it will have changed. Not only like online, the internet's completely changed everything. And this pandemic super accelerated the way we're using the internet with everything.
Mm-hmm.
We're now more interconnected, but we're also more aware of the flaws. And so I see in 30 years, maybe schools will be different and they'll teach certain skills
Yeah.
that people like us would advocate for the
Mm-hmm.
change.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then our kids will be complaining about something in the system that's broken still, because the world's never going to be perfect, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just, these are our problems. These are the problems we grew up with. We'll solve them and create new problems for new people to grow up with.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, it's never going to be perfect. So, like you
yeah,
said, there's always going to be something else that comes up
yeah,
that our kids are going to be saying like, "This is the system's so fucked."
yeah. Them Zoomers messed it up.
Yeah, them Zoomers. Yeah, man, really. Like, there's so many aspects. I remember I came across this book. It was on my dad's bookshelf. It was called The Sudbury School. And what it was it was kind of a revolutionary concept where the students and the teachers were much more on equal ground, and that they wouldn't teach anything to the student unless the student wanted to learn it. And so, like, you would be in a classroom learning math with like first graders as well as sixth graders. And like nobody looked down on that you were in class with like first grader or sixth grader. And what it did was they had different rules in place like that. So you would have to lessons would need to be student initiated. So meaning that the student would have to want to learn something before they started teaching it to them. Because if you think of it now, how our schools are run, they teach English and math for 12 years of the student's life, and people still have trouble with fractions and decimals.
Yep.
So like they said they got up to trigonometry or pre-calc within a 12-week section for within like 12 weeks. They got from like algebra 1 and basic stuff, basic mathematics like addition,
Hmm.
subtraction, to long division, to exponents, to like to pre-calc and things in 12 weeks, where usually that stuff will take 12 years.
Hmm.
Holy shit. And then another thing they did was they nurtured passions. So like there's one part in the book where one student would all he would do was he would spend his day fishing, because there was this little pond on the property of the school, and he would just spend his time fishing. And every year or every like couple months, the mom or the dad would come in and talk to the principal and say, "Hey, I think it's a big problem that all my son does is fish all day." And the principal would remind him like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that he's fishing, but he's doing a lot more than just fishing. Like in fishing, he's learning about the biology of the lake. He's learning about the fish that inhabit it and that like ecosystem. He's learning about baits and lures that are attractive to these fish. He's learning about like he's also like using his passion to drive him to that and to learn all those details and facets about that topic." And he said the important thing to remember is that when he's ready to transition to another like topic or something that may be a career in the long run, he's going to go after that with the same passion that he's gone after for fishing. And so apparently the student ended up getting into building computers and repairing computers and buying spare parts and selling them online, because that was his next thing he got into. And then the mom or the dad just stopped coming in. So I'm like, all right, these guys are right. And so it was like such a revolutionary like concept. Like another thing was when they were in their classes together, you would have to ask two or three other students how to do something before you could ask the teacher. So you would have fourth graders teaching first graders and first graders teaching fourth graders like math concepts. And it was like created a much more like brotherhood kind of deal. And that also it was more of like uh, I don't know. It was much more like camaraderie, but it was also that like you learn things when you need to teach them. So the person who was teaching it was learning it twice. So it was like all different concepts in this school format that was like really attractive. It was like, wow, that's a
Hmm.
way. That's one way to go about it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there was another story about a girl in that school that was applying for colleges, and she realized late that she wanted to go to college, but she knew which one college she wanted to go to, and so like constantly they needed an enrollment interview for the student to be admitted. And so she was calling the people, and all the schedule was booked. So she would call every day at 9 a.m. Hey, has anybody canceled? Has anybody canceled? Like for weeks on end. And eventually, like somebody canceled. She's like, all right, great. And so she gets the appointment, and everyone was like, who is this girl that called 30 times once a day, every day for the past month? And that she met the dean, and the dean said, all right, yeah, if she wants to come here, we would be happy to have her. And it taught a different kind of approach to things where it was more self-reliant, more empowering than
Hmm.
the current school system, which a lot of it is memorization. And yeah, it's gotten weird, man. It's gotten weird. It shouldn't be about memorizing topics. It should
Hmm.
be about learning.
Hmm.
Um,
And no, what I've noticed now is when I went through school, they taught certain things, but now as I'm getting older, I'm seeing how much the teachers kind of put their own bias into what we learned. And like some of the now I know kids who are in school now, like they're younger, and even my sister's telling me like the younger grades, they're talking more like she can tell that the teachers are being more slightly political and putting their little bias in school and stuff. And
mhm.
just the stuff I hear from her, like I don't know. It's like a mass scale of just people kind of all the kids learn is compliance as like they're going through the school.
Yeah, yeah,
And one thing like you got to raise your hand to go to the bathroom and everything, and it's so like ingrained in your head. I remember when I was in a college class, and still even the professor had to say like 5 times, if you need to use the bathroom, just go. With some kids fresh out of high school, miss, I need to go use the bathroom. She's like, just go, just go. It's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head by saying it. They teach compliance, like, and that makes sense when it was like an industrial age, and it served for like your main job in school is to go get a job.
Hmm.
Main job. It's not to create a business. It's not to be a free thinker. It's not to like protest against the rules that like you're not a fan of. It's like, okay, these are the way things are, and this is how I'm supposed to fit in it, versus
Hmm.
I'm trying to change things, or I'm trying to create my own life, or be a creative thinker. Like a lot of the arts are getting phased out of schools because it's not as an important thing. But like
Hmm.
there was a you ever look into like the Japanese culture and like ninjas and different things? Like there was to be a full ninja, to be a full like master of like combat, you also needed to be a master at dance, and a master at like singing and the arts and theater. And it made you to be a really well-rounded person so you could understand the plights of like regular people. And yeah, it was not so just one dimensional, but to see all the different aspects of the world that there are. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, it's a really interesting topic. Yeah, schools really they dropped the ball in some areas. Like, and I was really thankful to be a community college, to be able to like dabble in certain things and like meet a lot of great people in an environment that didn't cost all that much, which I was really thankful for. Um, but it allowed a lot of room for growth. And after I left school and then came back because I wanted to be there, because that's a big distinction of being going there because your parents tell you, and then choosing to be there is
Hmm.
it's so different. Where you're going to get a lot more out of the experience if you choose to be there versus if your parents say you have to go.
Hmm.
So it's a much more different kind of deal, but much more beneficial when you choose to be there, because then you start seeing like other things opening up. Like there was a time Russell was saying to me, like, when are you going to be an officer of one of these clubs? When are you gonna do that? And I was remind him, was like, when I commit to something, I a lot of times I go overboard in how much I focus on it, and then I like, all right, now I focus too much on it, now I gotta drop it. So it's about mitigating that and going into it slower and not like getting burnt out with my focus. But I said, if I'm going into something, it's got to be something that I'm passionate about. I'm interested in it, and I'm not just going to do it to get it on my resume as like something I'm not a fan of doing, because then I'm not going to be passionate about it. I'm not going to get all out of it that I want. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was never a fan of doing something just to have like your perfect record. And
Mhm.
I know people like that. Like they do everything they do is to have like this really good resume because colleges look at it and they ended up in good schools and stuff. But that just wasn't who I am. Like, like to do something just for the resume, like I gotta have my heart into it. Otherwise, like I'll just half ass it. I'd rather whole ass one thing than half ass two things.
Yeah.
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 That's good. I've never heard that term. I got a whole ass one thing versus I half ass two things.
Yeah.
Put
I mean,
it.
that shit's so funny.
Yeah.
That's a funny expression to me.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, man. And then another benefit of what I found when I wasn't in school is I dove into building websites. And that was a cool thing for me because I was always curious, like, how a website is put together and what are the steps behind it. And like, how does it go online? Like, how does it get
Mm,
built? Like, what are the different aspects of it? And it's a huge subject in itself. And I got to learn
mm,
everything, like a large amount of websites without having to do any coding. And
mhm,
it's like beautiful. And like little bits to like tweak the website. It was like, for an example, if you need to tweak something on your website, it's CSS coding. If you can't edit it within either like Wix or whatever one you use, you can use CSS, and then that'll be like, remove the footer on this page. And okay, how do I do that? And I'll Google how to remove a footer on one page only, and it would give you like the CSS code, and so you would just copy and paste it in, and it'd be like no footer. I was like, wow,
mhm,
that's easy. Look at that.
mhm,
So it was like so in depth and so really cool. Like, and that was something that I got to dive into and experience on my own. I was a big fan of that. So yeah, it's a real big benefit to getting into something on your own that you don't necessarily get if your parents push you into it. So yeah,
mhm.
there's a benefit to both. Like, I'm sure there's good that comes out of that as well. Um, but eventually, like at some point, you become an adult and you need to make your own decisions, and you need to be able to decide what you want and how you're going to do something, because your parents aren't always going to be there to tell you how to get
Mhm.
things done. Like my mom is an interesting example where her dad was always telling her, all right, this is what you're going to do. Like, all right, this is what you're going to do. And just like laid it out for you. Do this, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. Okay. And in some respects, that's good. But in other respects, like she was relying on him for how to go about stuff. Like when it came time for me to get my car or my first vehicle, which was like sitting in the driveway, like when I got it, it was an old BMW, that I asked my mom if I could have it. And she said, yeah, let me run it by. And then she talked to my pop. And then after it, it was like, well, this vehicle's not going to pass inspection. It's probably not roadworthy. Uh, I think you should get it checked out at the dealership first. And I was like, and then that information trickled down to me, and I was like, but you said I could have it. Or what? The car runs. He'd be like, yeah, it's Pop says it's not going to pass emissions, and this and that. and it was like driving me crazy. And so I'm really thankful that I have my dad in my life, where he was the one that was saying, like, okay, well then, because it was so great. My pop-up wanted me to take the vehicle. It was a 91 BMW, get it towed to the dealership, get them to check it out for like $125 diagnostic fee. And then whether it passes or not, get it towed back. And the idea was that it wouldn't pass. But then the best part was my dad. I was talking about it with my dad because I was really upset and I was like hitting a wall because there was no progress being made. He said, "Okay, well then why don't you ask your pop-up if he'll pay for it?" I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting thought." And he's like, "Yeah, if your pop-up wants all this stuff done, if he's requiring it, then it just makes sense. He should pay for it." It's like, okay. And so I brought it up to my pop-up and he said, "Pop-up, okay, you want me to do all these things. Would you mind paying for it?" He was like, why should I pay for it? I said, "Well, you're asking for all these things to be done. It just makes sense." And he said, I'm done. I'm done dealing with this topic. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Do whatever you want to do." I was like, all right, sweet. Now we're one less person that is in my way of getting the car. And so my dad was always a big fan of teaching us to be free thinkers and critical thinkers
Mhm.
and to be self-sufficient. And so yeah, it's a big aspect to it. And then another thing is that we also need to be aware that we're not like that my dad says there are four things that every person needs to know, and that's how to cook, how to clean, how to do their laundry, and how to pay their bills. And if you know how to do those four things, then you'll be good if you move out on your own. But if you don't know how to do all those things, a lot of times people look for partners that can do those things, whether it's how to cook or how to clean or do their laundry and pay their bills. Sometimes guys will get a girlfriend or a wife that does all those four things for him, and he just has to go to work and come home. And like he's happy with that. But
Mhm.
if that relationship ever doesn't work out, then he's like he doesn't know how to survive. So
Mhm.
yeah, they're important life skills that my dad was always a fan of saying, like, remember you gotta know how to do this and you gotta be a critical thinker and be aware, make your own decisions. Because like we're a lot of times, even though we got our parents, we got other people around us, it's really on us to
Mhm.
make a life for ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, no, one concept I've really taken to heart is extreme ownership. So it's like it's just embedded into me now because it's one of the things I value a lot. Just everything that happens in my life, I take like responsibility. And even if something's not directly my fault, you're responsible for your actions and like how you tackle the situation. So it makes you more self reliant. And when you're very self reliant, you can just do like whatever you want. It makes it easier to do what you want and get the things you want. The way I view it, rather than how you said always having to rely on someone to do something for you.
Yeah. That's an interesting topic, extreme ownership. Um,
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like it helps, like because I read somewhere I don't even remember where, but the word responsible means response able. So like the response you give to something.
yeah,
A
the
lot of
ability
people,
to respond in the moment. That's what my dad said.
yeah, I see it pushed a lot. Like if something happens, it's not like your fault. And while something may not be your fault, I try and find reasons to like things I could have done better and where my input was there. It's
Mhm.
I'm very, very, very focused on my internal locus of control and kind of just everything else just push it out. 'Cause that's all you can do.
Yeah,
You can control your actions and your thoughts. You can't control like outside circumstances, but if you control your actions and your thoughts, you can kind of like swivel your way around circumstances to the best of your ability. And once you can't, then like it's beyond your control. So no point
yeah,
in fighting that there.
yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like the internal game, like the internal
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
everything. I've talked with a lot of people over this past year about like how we are, because the law of attraction is definitely a thing, and we attract certain things that are meant for us, and a lot of like
Hmm.
the relationships we attract, or the jobs, or the like relationships in terms of like friendships or bosses or
Mm-hmm.
romantic relationships. It's all like perfect for us in that time, but there's
Mm-hmm.
always something to be learned from it. And so whether you're like, oh, that's something that I'm going to be aware of in the beginning and not go down that road, or like a lot of times it's what's within me that attracted that, or why do I keep attracting like partners that are like this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and a lot of times when you do work within yourself, you stop attracting those things just through like if you change something about your personality, you end up not being in that same situation all that much. As a result, you're in different situations and you're
Mm-hmm.
meeting different people, and then you're getting to know them and you're attracting different things within that situation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of things. There's a big topic called shadow work, which is a lot of like dealing with childhood traumas and like how those traumas affect us into our adulthood. Um, and a lot of things when we're in our adulthood, if they poke those same wounds that happened when we're children, whether we were neglected or we were like abused or where certain things happen, we respond the exact same way we responded as kids. Like I could tell you, like if somebody shuts my video games off on me, like now, like being 25, I'm fucking pissed because it was the same shit that was happening to me when I was like 4, 5, 6, 8, 12. Like I have a tendency to respond like that, and I'm like, hold up, like they do not deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's things that are like ingrained in you so much that are some of the toughest things for us to change about ourselves. I was talking with John Bucci from Firefly, and we were talking about how like certain aspects, like usually men get raised to be so masculine, and masculine means this, but
Mm-hmm.
then everybody also has like yin and yang to them, like masculine and feminine, and what balance of that the person
Mm-hmm.
like feels comfortable with and sticking to. But there's both sides within everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and I was starting to like dive into that, and so was he into like the feminine aspect of the self, which is more like artistic and creative and like colorful and full of expressions. And I was looking in my closet one time and I was saying, why is everything in my closet black or blue? There's like, yeah, I was like, there's nothing red in this closet. And I found one thing that was red. And I was like, oh my God, thank God I'm wearing this today. And I was like, I need to get some more greens and some more yellows and some oranges and some colors into this wardrobe. And he was saying, yeah, Doug, you brought that up to me. And then I noticed myself, like, I only have black in my closet. Interesting, right? So it's always interesting the stuff that like is within us that manifests in our outer world. Like I know a lot of people that if they had problems with like hoarding or whatnot, usually that's something from childhood. Or usually it's a like an attachment to things. Like my brother has a real tough time getting rid of stuff. And so like he's got like drawers full of things and boxes full of like receipts or gadgets that he's picked up along the way. And his third grade watch is in a box, and he's like, I can't throw this stuff away. It's my life from third grade. And so it's like, okay, well, we all get to make that choice. But like a lot of times things from our past will hold us back from the future that we're trying to create. And also a lot of times we're not sure why we're not getting that future stuff. Because we're just doesn't seem to work out for us. We're not in the right place at the right time. We're too like bogged down from the stuff from our past.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really super interesting topic to dive into. Um, and you said you read the book The Truth at one point. You read most of it?
Yeah,
It was a Neil Strauss book. Yeah.
yeah, no, really good book.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That was a book that kind of started me down that path because it was like such a typical like route of like a guy wants to get better with girls. And so he falls into that scene for a while. And then his next transition was digging up like skeletons in his closet with his family. And one of
Mm-hmm.
his quotes in his book was, if you think your family doesn't have skeletons, like, or if you think you have a perfect family and your family doesn't have skeletons, it just means you haven't looked hard enough or opened enough closets, is the way he put it. So it's
Hmm.
super interesting to see it like that, as issues that have happened in our past shape us throughout our entire lives until we
Hmm.
actually address them.
Yeah, he did a really good job of like explaining his whole therapy process, and that I gained a lot out of like the way they kept going back to his childhood and just uncovering stuff. Like seeing his perspective of that, again, like how you kind of noticed that within yourself, I also noticed that within myself at the time of reading that, and started to just look back at things that happened in my childhood and how they affect the way I am now. Which nobody thinks about these things unless like you read it, unless you go to therapy or you read about it. Like nobody thinks about these things.
No. Yeah, no, that's also another thing that's not taught in school
Mm-hmm.
or not brought up just as you go about your day.
Mm-hmm.
Because they even talked about like generational trauma, that like issues that your mom or your dad have get passed down to you. And I think one example that I read, I don't know if it was in the book or not. It was like an example where if your mom, when she was like a teenager, had a friend of hers that was like dove into heroin or dove into a lot of bad drugs and it like ruined her life from hanging out with musicians, then she'll grow up and like really hate musicians, really like not like musicians. And as a result, as things come up, there's usually an emotional charge attached with topics like that. So like musicians are the most low scum, lowest of the totem people, and they screw up their lives and all the lives around them. And if you're like a little kid, or you're even if you're in your mom's womb, as you're growing, you're feeling the energy that she's saying as she's talking about this stuff. And so that's kind of what sinks into the kid. And so the kid will then just like hate musicians as he's growing up, and he'll never know why. He just distances himself from musicians. He's always got a bad view of them,
Mm-hmm.
never a big fan of them. But nobody ever really dives into why.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge benefit of reading that book, was to see like things like that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, one thing I want to do when I get a chance is a Vipassana retreat. I don't know if I pronounced it right, but it's where you go. It's totally free. It's for donations. Like you can donate as much money as you think the value you receive, and so you go there, and it's like its own little retreat, and you meditate in silence for 10 days. So for 10 days, you don't really talk to anybody. You just meditate like day and night, and it really allows you to kind of explore that within yourself. And
Yeah,
so after 10 days of not talking and just processing everything, you kind of dig those skeletons out and figure things out yourself, and gives you a new perspective on life. So that's something that's on my list to do.
oh wow. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
I'd say, well, I would definitely do that with you. But then
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we'd be doing it. I'd be like, well, I also wouldn't be talking to him either.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'd be down to do that. Like that stuff is beneficial.
There's a place in up by there's one in New York, but I would like to go to the one in Massachusetts. Um, because of COVID right now, it's like harder to get in. And what you do is you apply like a couple months in advance, and they kind of like have an application process, but it's they'll get to you. You know, we have a long. Hopefully, we have a long life, so we'll get to it. It's it's in my goals.
Nice, man.
I'm thinking I'm hoping for next year because this year like you gotta play it by ear, see how it goes because COVID is still a thing. So like a lot of places are closed right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's one of those things that you just have to do in your life. I feel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's needed. Like one thing is with my grandmother. My grandmother has bipolar disorder, my dad was taking her to a therapist to slowly like wean her off the drugs, because a lot of the medical system isn't really set up for weaning patients off drugs. It's meant for
Mhm.
putting them on it, but there's not much thought into how to get them off it. They're just
Mhm.
set up with taking them their whole lives. And so like my grandmother was seeing a gentleman, and he was like all into like that kind of deal of like things that happen when you're a child, and like they reoccur when you're an adult, and you're basically like a child with a 35-year-old body, or with a
I
60-year-old
view it.
body. You could throw much bigger temper tantrums when you're like 5 foot 6 foot tall versus when you're 3 foot tall.
Mhm.
So what my grandmother found out, what the doctor found out while working with her, was that when she was young, her mom, like she was abandoned by her mom, or her mom wasn't in her life. Her mom left at some point. And so like there was a really interesting correlation, was that whenever my aunt Ter went on vacation, my grandmother would have an episode, which was like she was like lashing out. Or I remember one time she almost threw a computer in a hospital, like off a nurse's desk. It's like ready to chuck a computer or something. Um, because she felt like she was being abandoned again. And so you can cause a lot of damage, even if you're 60 or 70,
Mhm.
when you're feeling that. And so that was one thing that this doctor uncovered, and he called it previous bad experience. And so if anybody has any previous bad experiences with something that happened, they're just naturally going to choose to avoid that. So it makes sense. Um, but it also, there's a lot of benefit to dive into it and realize that, so that it's possible to move past it. And those things, those triggers, are less harmful to ourselves and to others.
Mhm.
And it's also like a lot of it is reducing the emotional charge to things. So you're not as linked to that, like, oh shit, this happened, I'm feeling a certain way. Yeah. And that's the work. And that's some of the toughest work that we can do, honestly. Yeah. So
All right. I don't mean to like cut off, but there's like a lot of homework I gotta start getting to, so I feel like we should start wrapping up. And
I hear you, my brother.
yeah,
We could go all night. I'm
yeah,
sure. But I love it, man. I'm happy. I'm thankful that I got to have you on the podcast. You'll get to see this on YouTube in a couple of days.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's a pleasure. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge and your wisdom. And I'm sure our listeners and viewers got a lot of great tips from it. So
Thank you, man. Nah, I'm hoping like this really works out for you.
yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pleasure, man. Hey, if you want, plug in, or do you want to promote any of your social media? Um,
Nah, not at the moment. I
not at the
deleted it
moment.
for the
Okay,
moment.
no
Yeah.
worries. I'll have you on again soon. However long that'll be, we can promote it again and get an update on how your things are going.
Mm.
That's good.
All right, man.
Good, man. Well, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you in a bit.
All
Later.
right, see you.